Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as usual, let's go over the market. Bit of a spicy day today, so we're gonna go over everything, talk about what has happened, what we can expect moving forward. VIX finally with a massive bounce, which is good to see. Well, I mean, if you're a bear, I guess, or whatever, but it's essentially more or less things like this are more or less unexpected. We talked about just yesterday, actually. I said how I'm surprised VIX is not at least in like the 20s minimum, right? And now we're of course 22.5. So there we have it. So let's just go over it, guys. As usual, if you enjoyed the videos, don't forget to hit that like button, find them useful, helpful, informative, or any of that stuff. And of course, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. And as usual, make your own decisions and do your own research. But all that being said, Tesla down just over 5% today, putting us at just shy of $173. So pretty brutal day, pretty damn brutal day. Definitely not a very bullish day. And again, if you've been following the channel, this none of this should be a surprise to you. I'm actually kind of curious where all those people were or are at right now when we were up here. They were constantly telling me Tesla's going to like 250. Bullish, Tesla's 250, guys. Tesla 250, guys, and now it's at 170. I'm curious, where are those people? How are they doing? Hopefully pretty well. But all that being said, right? We talked about yesterday how, or at least I mentioned to you guys, how I personally believe Tesla might get a small bounce before further pain. I'm not going to lie, it happened faster than I expected. I actually expected the bounce to last a couple of days. I really did. I don't think it would not only not last a day, it lasted like an hour or two. Definitely a lot less than I expected, weaker than I expected, which is not great. But nonetheless, it did essentially start the day. Today's what, Thursday, I believe, right? We did start the day on this candle right here. You can see bounced right up to 185. So not only was the bounce less than I expected in terms of like how high we'll go on the bounce, because like I said, I personally wouldn't be surprised to at least see like 187, if not maybe all the way up to like 190, right? That was my main bounce range. We only went up to 185 and a half almost, right? So definitely a bit of a, not only a weaker bounce, but also substantially lower time frame than I expected. I thought this bounce would last, again, like I said, maybe all of today. I really thought we would close at somewhere around 187 or something like that today. The fact that we bounced up, got rejected pretty much within the first hour of trading, and then from there just essentially straight up sold off this aggressively. Yeah, it's a little surprising. It's definitely a little bit surprising, and that is not what I thought. But nonetheless, let's go over, what does this mean? Like, what can this, is there any hope still, right? Now, I did talk about how I personally believe that Tesla, at the very least, right, once it is confirmed and we lose this one. Oh, by the way, this is important. This is why I mentioned this 180 level, right? This is why I said this level is exceptionally important, right? Again, prior resistance over here, right, became support. Clearly was support here for several times. We have several 1 hour candles just barely closing. I mean, I should probably just move this. Oops, that's what I'm not. Oh my lord, I don't know what I am doing. Let me go ahead and zoom out on this a little bit and then move this up to 180. Might as well just move this 180, honestly. I had it at 170 like 7 or something like that because there was some potential support there, but moving this back up to 180, which probably is where it should have been to begin with, in all honesty. But nonetheless, it just gives you better visualization that yeah, the 180 clearly has some support, right? We came right down to it, bounced off of it, and we definitely zigzagged a tiny bit in this area, only like 2 days of trading, which isn't very long, but nonetheless, clearly 180 was a level to keep in mind, right? But we did talk about how if this level over here breaks up here, 190 to 187, that's pretty damn bad already. And confirmation, in my opinion, is below 180, which again, showed a lot of support, showed potential. The bulls tried, man. They really did try their best, and they got kind of close at first, but it just wasn't enough. It just, the pressure, the bullish pressure is just not there, right? It's just much more bearish than bullish at the moment. And then once we cracked 180, well, I'm sure you can see what followed right after. And this is why I talked about that level also being pretty much the final, like, last line of defense, because this is what happens when it's broken. Now, all that being said, though, let's talk about where does this overall lead us. And I did talk about this several times back when we were still trading sideways over here, how I personally believe that this area will be the top. And then once we had this candle up here, I used this candle several times saying that this most likely will be the top, and it clearly so far is, right? So we've been calling these moves very, very well so far. So hopefully you guys found it useful. But moving along, right, talking about where does this potential pain stop, right? At the very least, I think will come down to most likely 160. I really think that will come down to about 160 at least, and I think that'll probably happen at this rate sooner than later. Again, I don't know time frames. That's something I'll never tell you guys. I don't know exactly when it'll happen. That to me, and I have no problem admitting it, is by far the hardest, most impossible part to predict. I can predict most likely where it'll go, in the future, like short-term-ish future, whether it's a day, a week, or even a month. I just don't know exactly how long it'll take, right? Maybe it's a day, maybe it's a week, maybe it's a month, maybe it's 2 months. I don't know. That's the part that I will never know for sure. But I will give you guys the price targets that I personally believe will most likely be seen. So, like I said, 160 is most likely at some point going to be seen. It could be as early as tomorrow, could be sometime next week. I don't know. But I think we will get there for sure. And I honestly would not be surprised if we come down to about 146 as well. Now, again, if you're a bull and you want this to be a healthy correction from this astronomical rally that we had from the lows to the recent swing highs, which again broke 200, which is a pretty good sign. Again, it's not enough. It's not enough. We arguably set a higher high in this movement recently as we broke 200, which is good. That is a phenomenal start, but that's about half of the way there. That's half the picture, right? The second half of the picture has to be formed by setting a higher low. And you also ideally for the bulls want to set it in a bullish retracement, which to me, very bullish retracement would be pretty much exactly where we ended up right here. We just bounce straight up here and that's it. That's, it's all done and good to go. I don't think that'll happen. I think there's more weakness than that for sure. So I think all the way down to 0.5 Fibonacci, which again is the 160, or even as low as this gap fill at the 0.618, which again is essentially the gap fill at 145-ish. Absolutely within the equation. And I do think that there's a pretty decent chance that we come down to this level somewhere around here and then maybe kind of zigzag somewhere like this. That to me is what I personally think will happen as of today, as of right this very moment. Again, doesn't mean it has to, but that's what I'm currently predicting, right? And this is of course, again, like I said, assuming the bullish trend holds. Another thing you can discuss potentially is the fact that, well, maybe we're having an inverted head and shoulders. Which is a bullish inverted head and shoulders, right? Maybe we're having something like this right here, right? Maybe something like this will form, in which in that case, yeah, this level over here will most likely hold, maybe like as low as 160. And that Fibonacci level will probably hold. That's also a possibility. But with that being said, in my opinion, because of how sharp the two moves were on the way down and on the way up, it leaves a lot of room for this inverted head and shoulders to develop, right? Where pretty much the way I view inverted head and shoulders is that you don't want it to enter the territory of the head, which in this case is pretty much like 126 ish and lower. That's where you really don't want it to enter the territory of it. Let's just say 130 and lower to be safe, right? So essentially, even if we come down to 140, I still think that's fine because it would essentially do something like this. And that to me is still a valid inverted head and shoulders, right? Something like that, of course, is still very plausible. So that's what I would be personally considering and I would be personally looking out for. Now, I'll move to that essential area to the downside. Now, our sign on the daily is still just straight down, not looking great. The 1 hour is just still not looking anything hot, anything to write home about. So it still looks definitely quite weak, and I don't think this pain is done yet. And I am still selling puts into this pain. I sold about half the puts, the cash secured puts I can sell. I still have about the other half to sell, which I will be selling as we fall down. And I personally will be hopefully buying up the majority of my money or shares anywhere between 165 to 145. That range is my personal buy zone as of right now. But again, it doesn't mean that it has to hold. And I do have backup cash in case that this area doesn't hold and we do go even lower that I can tap into if I need to. That's like my, if I'm wrong, essentially kind of, situation. Which I could be, which I very well could be, right? We never really know for sure. Now, all that being said, though, the bearish thing on top of everything else we talked about prior to is the fact that, well, you can argue that, we talked about the rounding top, right? Which is essentially something like this. And then you have the neckline, which we essentially broke, You can also argue this is a cup and handle, right? Where it's a very small cup and handle, but you can definitely make an argument for that, where we have something along the lines of this, right? We make our way down. And I think it'll be something like this right here, which is why I think we'll come down to around 160. And I do think there's a chance that we get a bounce from there, something like this, which makes the handle. And I think from there we go even lower, which pretty much will bring us down to this gap fill, if not maybe even a tiny bit lower, down to as low as 130. So that's something else to consider as well. That's a bearish pattern. So all of these things can definitely play out, right? It's just a matter of which one plays out. You have to that's why it's hard to predict exactly where it'll go, where it'll stop, where it'll bounce exactly perfectly, like at least this far out still. Mainly because this pattern is just still really executing and it's still kind of forming almost in a way still. So that's why I need to see where, the real support comes, like the real consolidation, similar to what we had here. Like when you're rallying up like this and you're bear, you don't want to be fighting this trend and you want to wait for this kind of consolidation and then wait for the pattern to be formed, wait for signs to start showing, which we talked about several times as, this whole era of consolidation was essentially playing out. I gave you guys many, many different things and many different patterns, many different things that broke or didn't break. And, and we essentially predicted this move coming down, like a week and a half in advance, right? And so far we've been correct by it, right? And you want to kind of wait for the same thing with this that happened here. after this downtrend is done. So you don't want to like fight the trend, because the trend right now is absolutely down, right? So you want to wait until it comes to a certain area where you start seeing some consolidation, and then from there you can see what that consolidation looks like and determine whether or not this is going to be a bounce and this is a great place to accumulate, or if this consolidation is looking bearish and we go potentially even lower, right? It depends on how the consolidation looks like, which of course I'll keep you guys updated as it happens. But as of right now, the trend is still down, ladies and gentlemen, and I do think that there is definitely a possibility we come down to 160 to as low as 145, potentially even 130, to have the bullish trend still intact. And I still think that, you know, that would just set a lower, a higher low, which will be good for the bulls, and I think from there we can rally in, you know, I think it'll be pretty damn good stuff. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing at the moment. So let me know what you guys think down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.